This is a true horrifying story, part 25. Warning, this is not a joke. The information that's going to be shared is dangerous and life-threatening. Do not, under any circumstance, commit the actions that will be narrated. This is the world's most dangerous book ever, Shams al-Ma'arif. This book was written by Ahmad al-Buni in the 17th century. But technically, the author of this book is not a human being. I never did and will never read this book. And this is your second warning. Do not read this book. Ahmad al-Buni practiced black magic, and he was in contact with the most powerful jinns and demons before he passed away. The jinns were the authors of this book. The elder generations, like our moms and dads, have heard about this book and they were warned by it. There are thousands of horrifying stories of people who read this book. Shams al-Ma'arif explains everything about black magic, how to get in touch with the world of jinns, how to marry a jinn, and the sacrifices you have to do for the devil, and much more. Unfortunately, this book can be easily found online. One day, a Saudi Arabian man that read hundreds of books for a living decided to read this book specifically out of interest and love for all books, without fearing the consequences behind it. He reached the chapter that teaches readers how to get married to a female jinn. He laughed about it. He tried the ritual to experiment it. The first night after finishing the whole book and completing the marriage ritual, he felt someone breathing next to his face. And on the second night, he felt a hand touching his feet. And on the third night, he heard her voice. The man was officially locked in a marriage with a demon. 5 years go by. He met a normal, beautiful woman that he fell in love with, and they both decided to get married. A week before the wedding day, the bride, the bride's parents, and the groom's parents all pass and die in 3 different car crashes. These are the consequences behind this book. And it's also known from many stories of people that have died from reading the first few pages. If you don't finish reading the book, you will get killed. All my stories, all of them, are true incidents that happened one time only. But this book is a product that is permanently available online. I beg you, do not go anywhere near Shams al-Ma'arif. This video is to educate you on the dangers behind this book. Do not go anywhere close to the world of jinns.
I have an update on the serial killer who is on the loose in California right now. If you've missed my prior videos, there is an actual serial killer who is on the loose right now in California. At the time of my last video, he had a total of 5 murders under his belt, but I regret to inform you that since then, he has added 1 more to the list, bringing the death total up to 6. He was also blamed for wounding a woman via gunshot wound, which was very out of character for him because we've realized that all of his victims have been male and 4 out of 5 of the last prior victims were all Hispanic. So very out of character for him. But I make this video to tell you this. If you live in Stockton or any of the surrounding cities, or quite frankly anywhere in California at this point, especially Central California, you need to be on guard and stay diligent. Make sure you lock your doors at night and make sure you limit how often you go out at nighttime, especially if you live in Stockton or any of the surrounding cities. It may sound extreme, but one of the most important things right now is your general safety. And that's all I got for now. I'll continue to keep you updated on the situation, but for now...
Okay, what's the next question?
Are you a male?
No. Are you female?
What does that mean?
What, no idea. No gendered. What's your name? R A B is what it did earlier.
Yeah.
I is it
Rabbi?
Rabbit. Yeah.
Rabbis Rabbisu.
Yeah, that was earlier.
Any more? No.
Are you here to hurt us?
Well, he had to start moving before.
Yeah.
Dad, please can we just
Yeah,
close
I don't
it?
want to do this anymore.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
been
it's
doing it
fine.
for too long.
I know, my arm's aching. Go on,
Come on, let's just close
Yeah.
it
we'll
now,
close it.
please. Dad! Dad, please.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't wanna
okay,
do
it's
this anymore.
okay.
Pick it up.
Hold up, you've got
Pick it
it
up.
Yeah,
wrong.
but you need to close it properly. Please,
Look,
Dad.
I just want to show you there's nothing on. Dinghy.
Dad. Dad.
No!
Kelly,
No!
Kelly,
It's
open the
okay.
door.
Two!
It's
Kelly,
okay.
open the door. Dad, please.
Calm down.
Dad, can
Hold
you
on.
open the
It's
door,
fine.
please?
It's
Open
fine.
it.
It's fine. Turn the light on. But it's already on. What the f...
Who or what pushed that baby over?
First games you should never play. Part 18. The Game of Waiting. This game gives you the opportunity to earn a very valuable prize. To start this game you will need to pick a day, but make it special like your birthday or something like that. Go to your calendar and mark the day before this day. Until that day comes you can do whatever you like, but gather a match and something to burn. When that day comes, burn whatever you picked. Focus on the flame and say the words, "Tomorrow is a special day." Make it really special. Now reach out touching the flame, and as it begins to burn, pull back. This is when the game begins. From that point until midnight, do not go to sleep and do not let that flame go out. Once midnight strikes, two things could happen. If your fire is still going, then the game has failed. But if it goes out on its own, you've completed the game. When you wake up in the morning, something special to you will disappear. But don't look for it because you're not going to find it. However, two items will have taken its place. These items will be of equal value to whatever you lost. This is your prize.
Two kids are playing in the living room before falling asleep.
Oh, here you go.
After they fall asleep, something pulls one off the sofa.
Dirty facts about history that school probably didn't teach you, part 17. A princess named Zara Khanum was a symbol of beauty in Persia in the 19th century. She was considered so attractive, in fact, that 13 different men took their own lives when she refused to marry them. Throughout history, most common folk had pretty small homes and would sleep together for warmth. So if mom and dad were in the mood, the rest of the family was kind of just there. Djou VI, former king of Portugal, had a royal master. The inventor of the bra had a pet dog named Clitoris. Shel Silverstein, author of The Giving Tree, was good friends with Hugh Hefner and would regularly go to the Playboy Mansion. William the Conqueror smashed his balls on his horse's saddle and died shortly after. And if that wasn't bad enough, it was particularly hot outside on the day of his funeral, causing his body to swell up and explode inside the coffin.
Bismillah. 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 Hey! أعوذ بالله. أعوذ بالله.
This is a real story sent to me by a follower. One time, when her parents were away on vacation and her siblings were out of the house for the night, she decided that she wanted to take a shower. All of a sudden, during her shower, all the lights went out. She decided to get out and grab her phone to turn the lights on. The second she grabbed her phone, she felt a breath on her shoulder. Instead of reacting, she decided to get back into the shower and finish. And when she was done, she decided she wanted to get a snack. When she walked into the kitchen, she found a kettle of water boiling on the stove and a pack of noodles on the table. She called out for her sister, but no one answered. She ran upstairs. She did not want to be in the kitchen anymore, and the second she walked into her room, she saw a woman in all black crying on her bed. She froze in her place and did not know what to do. And when the woman saw that she noticed her, she started running towards her. Seeing the woman run at her, she started crying and screaming for her sister, who was not home at the time. And mid-screaming, her sister comes into the house and runs upstairs to her. She tells her all that's going on, and then she looks back into the room. The woman was not there. She walks her to the kitchen. No kettle, no packs of noodles, nothing. Ever since, she has refused to stay home alone. If you have any scary stories that have happened to you, DM them to me on Instagram for a chance to have your story featured on my account.
Have you ever heard the terrifying story of the Smiling Man? The supposedly true story originated on Reddit a few years ago. A guy lived in a major city and liked to take long walks at night. He enjoyed the time alone as no one was usually out, until one evening, everything changed. He was out on one of his usual night walks when he noticed a silhouette of a man at the other end of the road. He was dancing strangely, almost in a waltz, but with every move, the man would end with a step forward. He appeared to be dance walking towards him. As he got closer, he saw the man's face. His eyes were maniacally wide open, looking up at the sky, and his mouth was formed in a painfully wide, cartoon-like smile. The guy quickly makes his way over to the other side of the street, giving the strange man room to pass him. He keeps walking, focusing on the sidewalk ahead of him, when suddenly, he froze as he looked over to find the smiling man had stopped dancing. He was now facing him, standing with one foot in the street, completely parallel to the guy, still smiling but wasn't moving. The guy starts booking it down the street to put some distance between them. He turned back to find the street empty, and he's relieved for a second, until he notices him again. The smiling, dancing man had crossed the street to his side and was slightly crouched down. The guy, frozen in fear, stood there and just stared at him. When suddenly, the smiling man started moving towards him. He took giant, exaggerated, tiptoed steps as if he were a cartoon character sneaking up on someone, except he was moving really quickly. The guy, completely terrified at this point, screams out, "What do you want?" The smiling man stands there for a while, then slowly starts to dance walk in the opposite direction. The guy stood there and watched him until he was out of sight. But then he realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore. The smiling man had changed directions and was running straight towards him with that same maniacal smile. The guy ran all the way home, afraid to look back at any point. When he got there, he turned around to find the smiling, dancing man was nowhere to be found. And the guy never took a walk alone at night ever again. I'll be sleeping with my nightlight tonight. How about you?
This is the time I discovered a dark secret under the McDonald's ball pit. In 1995, me as a senior in high school got a summer job at McDonald's to save up for my dream car, a 95 Stang. For the most part, I cleaned the store, including the play place. This McDonald's was really weird though, because from time to time, kids would go missing. The play place was pretty enclosed and we had no clue how this could have happened. The store was sued tons of times, but always won because there was no evidence by experts about it having any risks. The blame was usually put on the parents. I soon learned what the cause of the disappearances were. One day as I was cleaning tables, a scream erupted. A mother said her son had gone missing. A few kids said that they saw him fall into the ball pit and never came out. But as all the parents and employees were talking amongst themselves, their claims were dismissed as fellow guests comforted the mom. After we closed up shop for the night and the police had left, I had to finish cleaning the store alone. I was curious about what those kids were saying about the ball pit. Oddly enough, that's the one spot I was never taught how to clean it, and you'd think that a place like that would have to be cleaned. I sprayed my towel with Kleenex and leaned my whole arm inside. Man, no wonder these kids got in so deep. I could put my whole arm inside. I took my broomstick and shoved it in, and it went all the way in. I couldn't feel the bottom. I then decided to step in. Just then I couldn't feel the floor. I decided to let the ball pit consume me, and I just kept sinking in. I'll show you what was on the other side next time. So I discovered something disturbing under the McDonald's ball pit. So downstairs I saw this door that I didn't see before, and I decided to open it. And I was in for a huge shock. I can't exactly describe what I saw, but to some degree I found out what happened to the missing kids. Just then I heard the door open from upstairs. I closed my door praying it was the cops, but all I heard were footsteps. I peeked through a hole in the door and saw a flashlight. I hesitated. Could this be the cops? Something made a sound in the ball pit. I slowly opened the door, sneaking upstairs. When I saw a cop car outside, I shut the door and locked it. The officer came inside and I explained everything to him. The ball pit, the missing kids, and I think I just locked whoever did it inside. I showed him the door. He opened it and started going down with his hand on his holster. You could feel the tension. When we both made it downstairs, the officer looked around. The person down here was gone. You know something, kid? As he said that, I looked to the ball pit, which had a ladder leading up. Another cop car could be heard pulling up. You're good at this, but you're not great.
Gruesome torture methods that you'll be glad you weren't around for. Part 1. The brazen bull execution was a method used in ancient Greece where a flame at the bottom roasted you to death, and the head of the bull was designed in such a way that your screams would be filtered and contorted into the sounds of a real bull. On pirate ships, workers who refused to follow orders would be hung by their nails. Another method used by pirates was called keel hauling, in which the men were dragged under the ship until they died. And if this wasn't bad enough, the ship's hull was covered in barnacles so the man would be cut up as he drowned. Scaphism was an ancient Persian torture technique where criminals were stripped naked, tied to a boat, and then force-fed honey and milk until they got diarrhea, were covered in more honey, and set adrift in the ocean. This would then attract insects that would slowly but surely eat the men to death.
Today I'm going to be telling you about all the creepy dark secrets of IKEA that you're not supposed to know about. So IKEA was purposely designed to be like a maze. It has been designed to take shoppers through every single department in the building, from the kitchen to the couches to the desks. They make sure that you see as many items as possible before you leave. Employees apparently call this path the long natural way, and the pathway has to curve every 50 feet to keep customers from getting bored of being on this path. The next thing is that exits are very hard to find. Because they don't want you to leave, they make exits almost impossible to find so that you finish walking through an entire floor before leaving. Like, think about it. Every time I go to IKEA to be there for like 20 minutes max, I end up being there for like an hour. The next fact is that there are secret shortcuts. There are shortcuts through IKEA that are kept secret from the public so that only employees can use them to get around the store faster. So you really have to keep an eye out for these secret passageways. Often they take the form of unmarked service doors. There's this employee that used to work at IKEA that literally said, if you know where to look, you will find them. The other thing is that these secret passageways often change. They change them fairly frequently because customers would get familiar with the shortcuts and know how to zip through the store. After a while, they would change the shortcuts to force people to go around the long way again. There's this creepypasta that I found called the Endless IKEA. And it says that if you don't leave IKEA before closing time, you'll be trapped there overnight in an endless maze, and employees aren't able to see you or help you. It's almost like you're trapped in this alternate dimension of IKEA world. The lights will be off, there'll be no one around, there's no doors to access, your phone won't work, and you will have to wander all of the paths until sunup. That just sounds like what would regularly happen to you if you got stuck in there overnight. Anyways though, if you've worked at IKEA before, let me know if any of these facts are true or false.
The most controversial experiments ever, Part 6. In this video, we're going to be talking about an extremely inhumane experiment that took place during the 1960s. And this case is known as the 1969 monkey drug trials. The premise for this experiment is simple but very disturbing. Scientists would gather monkeys and then they would inject them with all sorts of different drugs, ranging from acetaminophen all the way to cocaine or methamphetamine. They would then leave all these substances that they had been injecting the monkeys with, and they would sit back and observe. What they wanted to see was if they would build a dependency and if they would actually end up administering the drugs to themselves after having been previously injected with it. And as it turns out, they of course did. This experiment showed the dependency, the physical dependency, and the emotional dependency that some of these substances can have on somebody. The scientific value of this experiment was shoddy at best, which is why this experiment is so controversial. Follow for Part 7.
Dirty facts about history that school probably didn't teach you, Part 15. During their expedition, Lewis and Clark ate their pet dogs, not because they were desperate, they were simply tired of eating salmon. The great magician Houdini once escaped a prison cell while fully nude as to not hide anything to escape. However, what the guards failed to check was that he hid a skeleton key in his ass cheeks. The one time in prison where having a dumpy actually helps you. In the 18th century, sailors on the HMS Dolphin discovered that Tahitian women would gladly trade sex for iron and began pulling nails out, causing loss of the ship's structural integrity. An intern at NASA once stole a safe full of moon rocks, sprinkled them on a hotel bed, and proceeded to have sex with his girlfriend on top of them. Man was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for getting his rocks off. Raphael, the Italian Renaissance artist, not the Ninja Turtle, died of exhaustion from non-stop sex.
Dark secrets you didn't know about your favorite companies. John Harvey Kellogg, or Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, creator of Kellogg's, ran a sanitarium where he conducted gross experiments on children, including circumcisions done without anesthetic, tying boys' foreskins shut, and throwing acids on women's genitalia, all in an effort to stop sexual urges and masturbation. Cornflakes were actually invented as a snack that was so bland it could stop sexual urges. Between the 1940s and 50s, Quaker Oats conducted an experiment using students at Fenald State School. They fed these students radioactive contaminated oats without their consent, of course. And while no one died from this, it's still sick that they used these 7- and 8-year-olds for test subjects without their consent. In 1993, Jack in the Box experienced an E. coli outbreak due to contaminated patties. It killed 4 people and left another 732 sick. It had people scared to eat Jack in the Box for years.
The most controversial experiments ever, Part 7. In this video, we're going to be talking about the University of Pennsylvania and the testing that they did on prison inmates back in 1951. Testing began this year in 1951 and was facilitated by Albert M. Kligman. Albert tested a whole host of things on the inmates, including skincare products, toothpaste, pretty much anything that you rub on yourself is what they tested on them. And this, of course, is why these experiments were so controversial, is because they were using human life to test the safety of these items. And in certain cases, these items were not safe and they would cause adverse reactions. And what's even more insane is that these experiments lasted for 20 years. Fortunately, in 1971, these experiments were shut down, but still an awful time period to be around and experimenting in. Follow for Part 8.
Dirty facts about history that school probably didn't teach you. Part 16. Benjamin Franklin was a MILF hunter and would regularly encourage younger men to try out older women. Significantly older women. The Welsh would often steal sheep from England, but this offense was punishable by death. The loophole to this was when they got caught, they said they were there to simply the sheep, which was considered less bad. Anne Frank's diary talked a lot about puberty and her personal experiences with her own female anatomy. It goes into significant detail and her father had to go through and edit it all out. While gay sex was considered illegal in Britain in the 19th century, lesbian sex was not. Mostly because their government refused to believe that it was a thing. JFK was dating Miss Denmark in the 1940s, and the FBI was concerned that she was a German spy. They put a recording device in her bedroom, expecting to hear a conversation, but instead just got a lot of
What is a dark secret that you have? When I was about 13, I caught my mother having sex with her brother. Haven't told anyone in the last 9 years so as to not mess my family up. When I was a small child, my mother's friend Amy was babysitting. Amy had a son, and for whatever reason he broke one of his brand new toys while I was there. When his mother found out, he blamed me, and she believed him. She let all the kids go outside in the pool while I had to stay inside and do the dishes. Well, I wasn't washing them the way she wanted, so she grabbed the back of my neck and shoved my face into the hot soapy water and smacked my face. Later that night I had to shower over her house, so I pissed in her mouthwash and hair conditioner while I was in the bathroom. Still makes me smile thinking of that bitch gargling my little boy piss. I was 11 when I set my grandparents' couch on fire with Grandpa's lighter. My cousin and her friend died from smoke inhalation. My son was most likely conceived in a Walmart family's bathroom, while me and his mom were both employed there. My maternal grandmother, who recently died, murdered at least one of her husbands for his money, and possibly more, because she had several who died under mysterious circumstances. She was never convicted, but the dude died from rare earth metal poisoning that developed from years of eating tainted food. She cooked every single one of his meals during that period of time. Notably, she did not get poisoned herself.
The Cheeto Dust Killer. February 9th, 2006. A witness watches a man in Taylorsville, Utah hold a bottle of Coke and a bag of Cheetos as he talks to 29-year-old Sonia Medja outside of her apartment. Suddenly, the man smacks Sonia hard on the head and forces both of them into the apartment. When Sonia's husband comes home, he finds the man's food outside the door. Inside the apartment, he finds Sonia stripped nude and strangled to death on the bed, and her body covered in Cheeto dust. Let's fast forward to February 9th, the same day, but a year later and only a mile away from the previous crime. An unknown man breaks into the apartment of Damiana Castillo and smothers her with a pillow. The investigators compared the two crimes and matched the DNA to the same man. Unfortunately, the judge has sealed the case, so the verdict is unknown. But what we do know is that police found the man who we call
3,753 feet deep in the Indian Ocean. possibly a rare black pigmented cone jelly. Watch as it shifts its form with ease.
Three creepiest hidden rooms found in people's homes. Number 1, creepy bedroom peepholes. It all started with two people just house hunting until they stumbled across something weird in the basement. They came across peepholes in the basement stairs and noticed that behind the basement stairs had pretty much been used as someone's bedroom. The brick walls were covered in messages like "No watching Isaiah through the hole," "No writing or drawing on the walls," and "Stop watching me." Number 2, room behind bookcase with unwanted guest. Behind a bookcase in the parents' bedroom of a family home was a spiral staircase. The staircase led to a room full of sweet wrappers and items that had been taken from the house, which suggested someone was living there. The owners fled the house and it was boarded up. Number 3, religious hideaway. The Farless family came across a strange metal grid in their house, and after 3 years of wondering what was beneath it, they finally decided to investigate. They found a mysterious brick room there which had a large stone symbol of what appeared to be a religious cross.
Dirty animal facts that biology class definitely didn't teach you. Part 3. The cat sex chemical in plastic bags are almost identical under a microscope, so if you catch your cat licking a plastic bag, it's probably because it's making it sexually aroused. If a dolphin nutted inside you, your organs would explode from the sheer force and speed of its climax. Blue crabs will eat anything within a few days and mutilate the bones beyond recognition. When spotted hyenas give birth, the pups have to pass through a half pee-pee, half clitoris birth canal, meaning they literally have to claw their way into the world or suffocate trying. Barnacles have the highest schlong to body size ratio in the animal kingdom. Platypus don't have nipples, they just kinda sweat milk. Tapirs have prehensile pee-pees, meaning they can grip with it. This is especially useful during mating because the males can use it to hold the females in place.
Whatですか?
Horror movies you won't be able to finish. Part 7.
These teenage sisters believe they're haunted by a poltergeist.
I was going to ask the same question as I asked earlier. How many voices are there?
600.
600 the voices.
I know the joke.
How many really are there, Margaret?
I think so far we've had 10
Three.
Sensible voices, but the rest of the names are absolute rubbish. Oh, what do you mean? I'm sorry, I'm not with you. What? I feel.
Oh, you're with me now? With you?
Sensation in the back of my neck. Yeah.
Well, tell us about that.
I don't know.
No, tell me about that. You get it now. Buzzing in the back of the neck.
Yeah.
you feel it vibrating as if it was sort of,
No, like someone
someone
put
what?
their hand on the back of my neck. Like.
Tell you I saw something out here. But it's inside now. Tap it on the window out. There.
Oh, yeah.
Top window.
Yeah.
Bottom window. Bottom window.
I can only see it on
Is it, what the hell does its face look like? Oh, man, it disappeared. Top window. Right.
Oh my god.
The hell is it going to zoom in on this?
Oh, it's gone.
Bottom window.
Oh,
What the hell is going on?
You're just going through the floor or something.
It's gone through the wall.
The last tribe on Earth to use what some believe is the most ancient hunting technique of all.
That was the Sand people of the Kalahari Desert in Africa, who used the most ancient yet the most terrifying hunting technique that was passed down to us by our ancestors. Now, we all know that every single animal has adaptations that have allowed them to survive to the modern day. For instance, we all know that cheetahs are the fastest land mammal on Earth. Sharks have a limitless supply of teeth that they use to tear their prey apart. But what about humans? Now, I know what you're saying. Our brains, obviously. Easily, we are the smartest creatures on the planet. But, be that as it may, if I was to plop any one of us in the middle of Africa and told you to survive, regardless of how smart you are, how many PhDs you got, you're probably not going to make it. So what other adaptations besides our intelligence gave humans the edge over animals, and more specifically, our prey? Running. Human beings are easily the best long-distance runners in the entire world. Now this is due to a few different reasons. Number one, the ability to sweat. Now, short of monkeys, apes, hippos, and horses, human beings are the only creatures that can actually sweat, which allows us to cool as we run. And also, being bipedal, our tendons and our muscles have adapted to, when we hit the ground, kind of spring forward, something that four-legged animals just don't have. So how do we use this adaptation? It is called persistence hunting. We would literally run our prey down. Now, in unison with our brains, what humans would do would get up, find a prey, and literally run it to exhaustion. They would run, the animal would get tired, and then we would catch up. It would run, it would get tired, and we would catch up. And we'd repeat this process for sometimes up to 8 to 12 hours before an animal would ultimately fall to exhaustion, allowing us to go in for the kill. This is actually best demonstrated by the Sand people of the Kalahari in Africa, who still use persistence hunting up until the last decade. And from a prey's perspective, how absolutely terrifying must that be? With the ability to track and find hiding places and know the layout of the land, there was literally no escape. They would just run and run and run. And no matter how far you ran, you were never going to escape.
Then the kudu collapses from sheer exhaustion.